It's the Mixed Martial Arts Hour with
The Mixed Martial Arts Hour back in your life on this Monday, May 23rd, 2016. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ariel Helwani inside our New York City studio. So great to be back here doing another episode of the show, and a very happy Victoria Day to all my friends up north. Yes, in Canada, today is a national holiday. It's Victoria Day. We celebrate Queen Victoria's birthday. She is tomorrow 197 years old. How about that? They don't even celebrate her birthday in England. But in Canada, we respect the Queen. We say, God save the Queen, and everyone takes off. They go to their country house, their cottage, wherever. So if you are in Canada today, I hope you are watching us live on this great Victoria Day. This reminds me, by the way, that next week, a week from today, we are actually off due to Memorial Day, but we're back on Tuesday. So we're not leaving you hanging the week of UFC 199, but we're off on Monday to observe Memorial Day, back the next day, same time and place on Tuesday. So make note of that. I'll remind you as the show goes on. So a lot to discuss this week. Of course, the big news last week, UFC 199 has drastically changed. It is now going to be headlined by Michael Bisping. Yes, Michael Bisping, almost 10 years to the date of his UFC debut, official UFC debut. He finally gets a crack at the UFC middleweight title. But there's a bit of a catch. He gets it on just 2.5 weeks' notice. Gets to fight Luke Rockhold for the middleweight championship on June 4th in Inglewood, up to no good, California. Unfortunately for Chris Weidman, he had to pull out of the fight due to a very serious neck injury. So opportunity knocks for Michael Bisping, and that, of course, was the big news of the week. There was some other news last week as well. Tyron Woodley finally getting that title shot against Robbie Lawler. That's UFC 201. Wilson Hayes fighting Demetrius Johnson, also at UFC 201 for the flyweight title. A lot going on in the world of mixed martial arts. Bellator had an event on Friday that featured a lackluster... Well, calling it lackluster would almost be kind. A very lackluster main event between Rafael Carvalho and Melvin Manhoef. Carvalho successfully defends his title, although a lot of people thought Manhoef won the fight, including myself. Venator had a very strange event on Saturday, which we'll be talking about. Some interesting highlights came out of that. But no UFC. They are back this coming Sunday with an event headlined by Cody Garbrandt versus Thomas Almeida. What a fantastic main event that is. Kind of reminds me of a WEC card, that one, if you know what I'm saying. So there's a lot going on, and we have a stacked show as always, so let's get right into it. I'll run down the show and then get to our first guest of the day. At around 4:10 Eastern Time, we're going to be joined by Wilson Hayes. The aforementioned Wilson Hayes, veteran of the sport, gets a flyweight title shot July 30th in Atlanta, Georgia against Demetrius Johnson. How about that? A week after he announced on this show that he has signed a new 8-fight contract with the UFC, Wilson Hayes is going to be fighting Demetrius Johnson next for the flyweight championship. That's the co-main event of UFC 201. At 350, Emil Mek is going to be joining us. Who is Emil Mek? He is the man who defeated Rousimar Palhares this Saturday in Milan, Italy at Venator FC3. And I got to tell you, it's not quite Conor McGregor levels, but people have been hounding me to get Emil Mek on this show. Norway's own Emil Mek on this show for quite some time, so I'm excited to talk to him. He picked up a huge win. In less than 1 minute, he disposed of Rousimar Palhares. Pretty shocking stuff. 245 Chael Sonnen, a very busy man these days. He'll be stopping by. Always good to talk to our pal, Chael P. Sonnen. Robert Whiteford shared some disappointing news Saturday morning. He has been released from the UFC. The flying judoka is now a free agent. We'll talk to him, one of our favorites, at around 225, 205. The aforementioned Cody Garbrandt will stop by to talk about his main event on Sunday. 145, Michael Chiesa, who's actually doing the color analyst job for that Venator card, but more importantly for him, he main events the UFC's debut in South Dakota in July against Tony Ferguson. He'll be stopping by at 145, and at 125, Tyron Woodley will jump on the show to talk about his big fight at UFC 201. But there was only one way we could start this show, my friends. The perfect way to do so is with the Count himself. He joins us via the magic of Skype outside. How about that? Michael Bisping in the house, the headliner, one half of the headlining act on June 4th in Inglewood. Michael, how are you, my friend?
Ariel Helwani, it is always a pleasure to speak with you, but I've got to say, you know that my time is precious right now.
Yes.
And I have to sit there and wait for you to go through this lengthy intro. It's like, I don't care who you have on the show.
Okay.
Please, let's get this rolling, my friend. I got next to break. What is it? I don't know.
Checks the cash. Checks the cash next to break.
Oh, whatever it is. How you doing, buddy?
Okay, I like the energy. How about this? Very exciting. And by the way, happy Victoria Day to you. Did you know today's Victoria Day?
It means a lot to me today to be talking to you on, of course, the blessed Victoria Day. Is that a national, what is that, a Canadian thing?
Queen Victoria in Canada, coast to coast. It's a national holiday. We celebrate the birth of Queen Victoria.
Holiday Monday.
Yes, how about that? 197 years old tomorrow.
Come on. Queen Victoria. Long live the Queen.
God save the Queen. So that's really why I wanted to have you on. Now we can say goodbye. No, I'm just joking. We got a lot of big news, Michael. You're back. You're back at home. No more movies for you. You're taking this thing seriously, yes?
100%. This is by far the biggest fight of my life. Of course, the Anderson fight, that was the biggest fight. But here it is, the title shot after all this time. Are the circumstances perfect? No, they're not perfect, but I believe the circumstances are very good. Of course, as you mentioned, been up in Canada for the last 7 weeks filming the new Triple X movie. That was great. It was a lot of fun. Fantastic experience. But this is what I do. I'm a fighter, and I've wanted to be the champion for a long, long time. Because I was doing the movie, I was trying to keep in good condition. Of course, being as vain as I am, you want to look good on camera. So I was keeping my weight low. If the weight wasn't low, fighting for the belt wouldn't have been a realistic opportunity because I just wouldn't have made weight. As it turns out, miraculously, from accepting the fight to now, my weight is at 203 pounds, which is where I normally am after a full training camp.
Wow.
So it's insane. I got back from Toronto. I went and did some pads with Jason Perillo. My conditioning is right where it usually is. So it's insane, really. But it's all in the mind. It really is. And, 2 weeks, I believe, will be a positive thing for me. I've talked about this a lot. I always overtrain. And the first couple of weeks of camp, I feel fantastic. I'm throwing guys around, I'm powerful, and I feel good. And then as the camp progresses, 8 weeks, I train so hard because it means so much to me. By the end of the camp, yes, my conditioning is good and things like that. But, I've lost strength. I've gone from being confident to negative to confident to negative. There's all these mixed emotions, a roller coaster going up and down. There's no time for that, okay? I'm 2 weeks out. My weight is good. My conditioning is good. I'm going to train like a madman for the next 10 days. I'll be there. I'm going to go in confident, no injuries. And this time next week or this time in a fortnight, I could well be the new world champion, my friend.
It's an amazing story, and it feels like a very Michael Bisping way in terms of the way you got this title shot. It's never been easy for you. And did you know, June 24th, 2006, that's when you fought in your very first UFC fight. That's when you fought Josh Haynes' Tough 3 finale. In fact, that was the very first live UFC event that I attended. So we're sort of kindred spirits,
Really?
You and I. How about that?
We are kindred spirits, Ariel. As I say, I've said it many times. I owe it all to you.
Thank
all
you.
to you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, that is interesting that it's 10 years to the day. I actually went on the auditions for The Ultimate Fighter in December 2005. Of course, I filmed the show and then we had the final. So I guess my first, official fight was then. A decade later, here I am fighting for the title. Obviously very excited. Listen, I know I'm the underdog and I know I deserve to be the underdog. Luke's an incredible fighter. He really is. He's well-rounded. He finishes guys. He's finished me before, but nothing about Luke scares me. It really doesn't. I know this guy. It's not like I'm going into unknown waters. I know exactly what to expect. Apart from that one head kick that dropped me, none of his shots hurt me at all. I believe I'm faster than him. And I have the ability to beat this guy, believe you me. We trained before, and I made mincemeat out of it, And then on the night when we fought, God bless him, he got the job done. But every fight is different. Every fight is different, and I will approach this fight very differently. I made some mistakes in that last fight. I was closing the distance, then I was going out of range. I was going in and out the whole time. This time, I'm not going to play the long game. I can't afford to do that. He's going to have the better conditioning, let's be honest. If it goes 5 rounds, I'm going to slow down and slow. So I'm going to look to take him out of there early. I'm going to close the distance, push him up against the fence, and just unleash what I've got. and I believe I can take him out.
What I love about you, Michael, is that you essentially interview yourself. You've become such a pro with the media that you just answered like 5 questions in one. So I appreciate that very much. But going back to my original point, when you entered the UFC and won the show, in the back of your mind, did you think, okay, it would take 2 years, maybe 3 years to get a title shot? Like here you are 10 years later. I doubt you ever thought it would take that long. What did you think initially?
Definitely didn't think it would take a decade. That is a long time. But, to be honest, listen, my career has been like this. It's been up and down, and I've had a lot of big wins and I've had some very, very big losses, key losses. And so I don't blame anybody else, I got into the number one contender spot, number one contender matchup. And I lost those fights. I can't be mad at anybody. I lost those fights. Now, yes, if you look at those fights, guys had a history of performance-enhancing drugs. Most of them were on TRT, which we now know was the biggest sham ever. And, Chael had a history. Vitor Belfort, Dan Henderson was on TRT. I didn't even know TRT existed when I was fighting Dan Henderson. I should have really been made aware of these things. But whatever, you can't be bitter. Here I am. Most people only get to this position one time in their life. I've been here 4 times. Most guys after the Dan Henderson fight would have never fought again. Joe Rogan and a lot of media wrote me off, said he's finished now. But I built myself back up again to the number one contender matchups several times. People can't do that. And I believe that's testament to my fighting will, my spirit, and my tenacity. And how much I want this. Still after all this time, a decade in the sport, I live in a beautiful house. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got amazing children. Life is blessed, but I want this. I'm hungry as hell, and I want this more than anybody. And the fact that I've got here so many times, and now here I am, I'm on the cusp of being world champion. Of course, I've got to get through Luke Rockhold. I think that speaks volumes about myself. I also think that it is my destiny. I know that sounds cheesy, and I'm not a deep person. I'm not a spiritual person, but I believe this is my destiny. And just the way everything's come together, I think it goes my way in 2 weeks.
So when the news came out about Weidman, a lot of people, including myself, a lot of media members said, this is a no-brainer. You got to give it to Michael. He's coming off the win over Anderson Silva. But from what we understand, you weren't the top choice. And even Dana White went out of his way to tell the world that you weren't the top choice. Come on now. Did that not bother you? I mean, you have been a soldier for the UFC for a decade. You have done so much to build up that market in Europe. How were you not the first call? How are you not the only call?
Listen, you'd have to ask Dana about that. I didn't know that he went out of his way to share that with everybody, but thanks, Dana. Dana always does things like that. It doesn't matter. I am getting the shot. And listen, I want this. Jacare speaks all the time about wanting a shot at the belt. Well, it was offered to him on a silver platter, and he turned it down. Guys like Rashad Evans, I love Rashad, don't get me wrong, but here's a guy that was plagued with injuries and turned things down. People turn things down. You can't do that. I've been presented with this opportunity. I'm taking it. Is it perfect? No. I was offered Chael Sonnen on 6 days notice. John Jones turned it down. I didn't. I'm a real fighter. I'll fight anyone, any place, anytime. And the fact that I just took a fight against Luke Rockhold for the belt, for a title shot that I've waited my entire life for. If I lose this, I'll never get a shot again. But I'm taking this not just for a shot, not just for a payday, just for some media attention. I believe I can win this, and that's why I'm taking this fight. I've always been a fighter. I'm a fighter's fighter. I'm a real fighter, and I'll prove that in 2 weeks.
Man, you are legitimately giving me goosebumps as we speak right now, the way you sell it, and I think that's part of the reason why you should have been the first call. Last, you did get that fight. Was there an internal struggle, though? Because 199 is so close away, did you say, look, I got to the finish line. They're going to have this fight, whoever it may be, and then I'll get the title shot, and I'll have a full camp. Did you think about that or try to negotiate that at all?
No, I didn't. I honestly thought what I'll do is I'll throw my name into the mix.
Yeah.
I want to get the shot, but I thought I won't get it. They're going to go with Jacare. So hopefully then I've positioned myself, after just beating Anderson, being on a win streak, hopefully I've positioned myself to get the winner of Rockhold and Jacare. I never thought Jacare would turn it down. Who turns it down? He just destroyed Vitor Belfort. He's in great shape. Yes, he might have a sore knee. Listen, I've got injuries all over the place, but you do it, you fight. The world isn't perfect. You wait for the perfect conditions. The perfect conditions never come. My master plan, that's what I thought. I thought I'd get the winner. Turns out Jacare didn't want to do it. Well, guess what? Here we go. There's a lot of people in the division that don't want it. You know, a lot of people that don't want it, well, they come to me. I've never said no once. And as I say, I believe this is my destiny. I believe the universe is pulling it together. I've been slogging away for 10 years. Not only do I deserve this, I know I can do this. I'm a fighter. Listen, we're both human beings. Luke Rockhold has been knocked out before, okay? It's not like, and I know the guy. I'm not going into uncharted waters, as I said. Yeah. But we're going to go in there, and he knows damn well, right? If you watch that fight back, the first fight, at the end of the first round, he was panicked, okay? And I gave him some shit at the end of the first round because he was like, he said, I'm going to finish you in one round. And I said, hey, look, still here, buddy. What's going on? And when he sits down in his corner, you can see that he was panicked and his corner was panicked. Now, okay, the second round went out. He caught me with a beautiful head kick. God bless him. Well done, you know? No ill will, no excuses. He got me. But every fight is different, and I'm going to take the fight to him. I'm going to close the distance, and I'm going to stay there, just like I did against Anderson, and I'm going to give him everything I got, and I believe everything I've got is enough to put him down.
It's amazing to read your social media, your Instagram, and your Twitter, and even the UFC is putting out this Back Bisping campaign. You have become a sweetheart. You have become this underdog that everyone's rooting for. What a difference from a few years ago where you were sort of the bad guy. Have you noticed this? Do you get a chuckle out of this?
Yeah, I've certainly felt a shift in momentum, and of course it's very nice. You know, before I lived here out in America, I was surrounding myself with maybe not the right people. We'll leave it at that. But I was surrounded with some people that were influencing me to act a certain way. And of course, you know, I've said it many times. I cringe when I look back at some of the things I said in the past. I think my true character is coming through over the years. The more time I spend on TV and things like that, people can see who I am. Listen, I'm still the same person. I'm still controversial. I still put my foot in my mouth. I still say stupid things. Of course, I'll always say stupid things. I'm Michael Bisping, for crying out loud. I'm an idiot. I was born this way. There's nothing I can do. My wife is here chuckling in the background because she knows what a plonker I am, you know, but... you know, I've got a good heart, and when it comes to good heart, I've got a good heart in the octagon as well. And I'm a good person, and I believe I deserve this. I've worked my ass off. Nobody's worked harder than me, and I deserve this, and I will take it home with me. As I said, I'm not here for a title fight. My entire life, from being 8 years old, I have fought. Nothing has ever been given to me. I'm sat here in a beautiful house. I've got a swimming pool. I've got a water slide. I've got several cars. I've worked my ass off for all of this. Nothing was ever given to me. I've worked my ass off, and I will finish. I will take this final chapter in my journey and become the world champion, and then walk off into the sunset. Sorry, can't get my words out. A happy man.
Considering all of this, when you see Luke, the way he kind of talks and acts, and it's interesting when you guys go back and forth because it seems like you sort of enjoy, to a degree, running circles around him from a verbal standpoint. What do you make of Luke Rockhold now as champion? Because, I mean, no, I don't think he would deny. The man comes off a bit cocky, if you will, to be kind.
Yeah, he's a smug asshole, let's be honest. Listen, as I said, I want the shot, you know, I want to be the champion, but I have this inner fire within me, you know, I pride myself on being a fighter. I've always prided myself on that, even at school. If there was a kid who was a couple of years older that thought they could beat me in a fight, I was like, cool, let's go onto the castle field tonight and let's figure it out. Who can win the fight? I've always been like that, and I don't know why. It's to my detriment, of course, you know, but of course now it's paid off. Luke Rockhold owns a victory over me. I want to rectify that. I want to set the record straight. So yes, I want to be the victor. I want to be the world champion, but I also want to beat Luke Rockhold. It is personal for me. And when I look at him, I just want to knock that smug look off his face. I really do, because you've never seen somebody that walks around like so smug. He's just as big as smuggest prick you've ever seen in your life. And so yeah, I would love another opportunity to punch that guy in the face. What, and be world champion at the same time? Come on, where do I sign up?
Okay, just a couple of minutes left with Michael Bisping, and we really appreciate the time because I know you're very busy. So what are the next 12 days like for you? How do you put together, not even a mini camp, I mean, it's like a quarter of a camp. What do you do? How do you actually plan this out?
Yeah, well, of course, you know, you've got to prioritize, you know. So throughout a training camp, you know, you're doing lots of things. You're trying to build your strength up and all these types of stuff. There's going to be no weightlifting. Everything's going to be sparring, drilling, cardio, things like that, hitting pads, mental focus. That's going to be key. The Of course, I'm only a human being, so I'm not going to try and cram in a stupid amount of training into 2 weeks. Again, that would be detrimental, and I would overtrain even in 2 weeks. I'm going to train hard. Of course, I have a press conference, I believe, on Wednesday. I've got to get all my medical stuff done, so that's another distraction. I've got interviews galore, and on top of that, I have to train, for a world title fight. The good news is it's in LA. It's in my backyard, so I don't have to get on a plane and fly anywhere. Here's another thing. It's fate. It's meant to be. It's in my backyard. I don't have to fly anywhere. I can sleep in my own bed the night of the fight, the night before the fight.
Will you do that?
As soon as I get done here, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the kids might drive me crazy. Maybe it's an opportunity to get away from children for one night. I leave here. I go to the gym. I'm going to stop off. I'm going to get some of my medical stuff along the way. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to spar. Then I'll rest. Then I'll have a stretch. Then I'll get a massage. Then I'll train again this evening. I ran this morning already. As I said, my cardio, believe it or not, I did 5 5s on the pads with Jason Perillo Saturday night after getting off the plane. And I was flying. I actually felt just as good as I do after an 8-week camp. And I don't know whether that's me convincing myself. I asked Jason, I said, that's the same output, right? As what I normally do. And he's like, yeah, it is, Michael. And he said, listen, you just beat Anderson Silva. You just went 5 rounds not that long ago. Since then, you have trained. You've kept yourself in shape. So the muscle memory, it's all there. The fact I've always been able to push myself cardio-wise, that's still there within me, and I'm bringing it out already. I'm going to go in there fresh. I'm going to go in there strong, very, very confident, with no pressure. Do you understand how mentally freeing it is to know I'm supposed to lose? I'm supposed to lose, so fuck it. I'm going to go out there and do my best. That is so freeing, as opposed to having the shot, campaigning for it, getting it, and having 8 weeks to prepare, and you go on the roller coaster of emotions. Listen, I know the world's expecting me to lose. Luke Rockhold knows, though, that I'm a formidable opponent, okay? He knows that he can be as smug as he wants. But, as Christopher Walken says on Saturday Night Live, we put our pants on one leg at a time. He said, I go out there and take world titles, okay? So, just watch this space, my friend. Watch this space.
2 last quick things. Have you watched the fight recently, the first one, or I should say the second one between you guys in November of 2014? And do you think he is a much better fighter since when you fought him in Australia?
Of course, I've watched the fight back. That was one of the first things I did. I watched it back, see what went right, what went wrong. The first round went well. If you watch it back, I probably edged that first round. Many people don't win the first round against Luke. People don't get out of the first round with Luke. I think I won that first round. He did headbutt me, incidentally, which opened up a big gash, and blood was pouring into my eyes, and that was a factor as well. At the end of that first round, as I say, he looked very panicked because he's not used to that. Since then, he's gone on to become world champion. Of course, that does going to boost his confidence. He's fought twice. He beat Machida. Machida, looked terrible. And since then, he's tested positive. I believe, he came off the steroids for that fight, got his ass kicked, got beat off Romero, then went back on them. And then he tested positive. And he beat Chris Weidman. Listen, Weidman's a hell of a fighter, and he was a great champion. So good for him. I've had 3 victories against solid opponents. Holloway was ranked at the time. Talizlaitis was on a 7-fight win streak in the Foreman Challenger in the past. And I just beat Anderson Silva. So we've both improved. For me, though, I've improved mentally, and that's always been my downfall. I've always had the physical attributes. I've always been able to, a coach can only tell you how to punch a certain way so many times. When you get to my age, you know how to do that. But it's the mental side of things, and I talked about this in the Anderson fight. I can't believe it's taken me so long to make these strides. And it's not just the belief; it's the calmness of mind. If you're angry, if you're furious, if you're in a crazy, frantic state, you're never the best version of yourself at all. So how can you be the best version of yourself as a fighter? Okay, so I'm going in there cool, calm, collected, focused, not fighting on emotion, none of that. I'm going to go out there excited, happy to be there, and I'm going to fight with everything I've got, but I'm going to stay cool, calm, and collected.
And final thing, I remember talking to you in your hotel room in Montreal prior to that CB Dollaway fight. This is prior to UFC 186, and you were coming off the Luke Rockhold fight. And at that point, you were sort of just a featured fight on the card. The card was hit with many different injuries and whatnot, and we didn't really know. I mean, I remember talking, would you ever get a title shot? Would you be content with never getting a title shot? That could have been the beginning of the end. That could have been where you took a left in the fork in the road, and you would have just been, a great fighter who never fought for the belt. Now here you are, a little over a year later, about to fight for the belt. And so I'm wondering, from that point and the eye injury and everything you've been through, have you allowed yourself to think what it will feel like when the belt is put around your waist? Do you have any idea what that will feel like? Do you even dream about that now? Do you allow yourself to do that?
I don't. I haven't. You just said that there then, and I was overcome with all kinds of emotion. This means so much to me. Of course, I do everything. I want to be world champion, but I do everything for my family. That's why I do everything, and that it would cement my legacy. It would cement that it would be a life's work. But I think it would also mean a lot for my family as well, and of course it would, there'd be some bigger paydays and things like that, and that's ultimately why I do it. But for me, a personal thing, I almost started crying then when you said it. I've never thought about that. I was on a run the other day, and it kind of creeped in what it might feel like, to have Dana put the belt around my waist, and then I thought, no, I'm not there yet. I can't think about these things. I can't, count my chickies before they've hatched. I've still got to win this fight. I've got to go out there and do what I can, and I believe I can do it, and I know I have a lot of people in my corner that believe I can. I want to thank everybody throughout my entire career that supported me. I want to thank the people that have detracted from my career because they've pushed me to train harder. I want to thank the UFC for the opportunity. Yourself, Ariel, people like yourself that have always supported my campaign. And, this is a win for the everyman. I'm just an average guy. I'm more than average. That just proves that if you go out there with a bit of hard work and determination, you can achieve your dreams. I live in Orange County, California. Got a beautiful wife. I'm sat in a beautiful house. I come from very, very humble backgrounds in a small, tiny, working class town in the northwest of England. But here I am about to fight for the world title in Los Angeles. I've just finished a movie, a $200 million budget movie. I was one of the main characters. It's amazing. I'm very, very thankful. As brash and as arrogant as I come across sometimes, I'm just having a laugh, and sometimes I'm misunderstood. But I'm going to go out there in 2 weeks, and I'm going to fight with every fiber of heart and soul and everything I've got, and I believe it's enough. And if it's not, well, God bless him. He beat me, but I believe I'll do it.
Go on, Michael. You got a whole country behind you, a whole continent. Great stuff, my man. You are literally giving me goosebumps. Amazing. Thank you so much for the time again. I know how busy you are. This means the world. Appreciate it. Good luck to you. Can't wait for the fight. I'll see you out there. And best of luck with everything that you do between now and then. It's a beautiful thing, Michael. Go on. Get that title.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Ariel. Thank you.
There he is, Michael Bisping. Wow. What can you say about that? If that didn't fire you up, I don't know what in a million years could ever fire you up. I mean, this guy is just, that's why he should have been the first call. That's why he needed to be the first call. That's why I've always felt he was ready for this moment. And yes, he's had his ups and downs, but after beating Anderson Silva, I can assure you Anderson Silva would have gotten that title shot. I can assure you if Anderson Silva won in February, he would have fought for the belt. I have no doubt of that. How he was not the first call, I'll never know. But he is the call. He's the one they settled on. And in less than 2 weeks, he finally fights for the belt, almost 10 years to the date of his official UFC debut. If those words and that energy and just everything that he brought to the table in that interview doesn't just fire you up as a regular human being to go on and take on the world and live your dreams, I mean, I don't know what else to say. That was unbelievable. Tremendous stuff from Michael Bisping. Again, he fights for the belt on June 4th in Inglewood, California, headlining act of UFC 199.